Welcome back, mates. Finally, I have also done the decision to make a base layout tutorial video about my most common and probably most known base. So about the spiral base, it's a resource protection base, and yeah, let's jump right into. So here we are. Unfortunately, I have no own video footage or high quality video footage or photo footage anymore of my own base. But because of the high popularity, I think, of this base layout, I found a lot of other players who also are now quietly using the layout still, and therefore I took their base layouts. In total, I only want to share with you that, especially at this layout, I'm pretty proud that it's all about the structure itself and about a little amount of base structures where you have located some important defense buildings. And all of the other stuff right around, which world wonders you are using, in which direction you are locating all of the other buildings which are surrounding the base, it is not that much mattering. It's more about tertiary or even a fourth aspect, so not primary or secondary important. And yeah, here you see quite another example of this base layout. Here is another one. And here is, for example, another one. I will show you later on which are the most important facts about the base layout, and for example, where slightly changings are probably senseful and other ways probably not senseful. So you can obviously see I have marked a lot of things right into this base layout, because in my opinion they are mostly important and primarily important, especially today, because when I created this base layout, there was no missile silo, and so no sniper towers, and I had to adapt the layout ongoing and successively, and therefore the layout also itself has evolved. And the first thing I want to make sure, or the first thing I want to explain is why spiral structure. So in total, it's absolutely, in my opinion, absolutely important that you let your complete base open. Logically, we have one closed down chamber with our oil refinery in the center, but all of the other arms, I call it arms of this spiral structure, are opened. If you are closing them down, which I have seen multiple times and also which I have attacked multiple times, this is a horrible attack, because especially healing cards are now not anymore vulnerable to this layout, and also other troops are not automatically getting drawn into the trap locations, which are pretty obvious but also pretty effective at the entrances, for example, of the base. So make sure that the spiral structure is definitely an open one and not closed down at its endings. So I'm not pretty sure whether you were already able to copy this base layout, or how I could make it possible for you in the best way. But I think from this on you can see that when I can give you an advice, just start, if you want to copy this base layout, from the very center and start with the oil refinery, which you are placing in the very center of your map by using the corners of the map to see where is your center. It's always depending logically on the amount of forest you have expanded or if you have cleared. And then work right around the oil refinery to get all of the other buildings standing. Just not make the problem and start with some kind of corner, because obviously you very often will end up seeing that you don't have enough space into one of the three other directions. So obviously the main aspect about this base layout is protecting the oil as well as protecting all of the other resources, mainly but about our oil. So also the tactical helicopters got nerfed, so it's not anymore that important to have your air defenses absolutely perfectly staying, as well as some traps around the oil. Thankfully to Nexon we have this patch right now. Like at all of my base layouts which I have created and presented so far, the absolute one of the very, very first aspects I'm considering is the locations of mortars, because from every attack I'm already aware of the danger of mortars if they are placed or located properly close together. In former times it was always about, and when I'm talking about former times, I mean the times before the nerfing of our tactics, so when sabotage, protect and betrayal only cost about one space. Now it has changed slightly, but the base layout was considered, or created with the thought or the thinkings behind that we have our mortars as close as possible together in the center of the map, but that far away from another that you cannot sabotage each other with another, with only one sabotage. So we have forced space between all of the mortars so that you are perfectly unable to get more than one mortar with one sabotage. But like I mentioned, after nerfing of the tactics, I don't think that anyone is using more than approximately 2, mostly only 1 or even no sabotage at the complete attack, and therefore this is quite an obsolete fact, I think. Nevertheless, the mortars are very close together, but what we have now to pay off or to pay attention about are the decoy tactics, and decoy tactics are absolutely effective against mortars if we have no cannon towers close to it. And in the second and third range or circle around the base of this base, I think it's quite considerably strong because we have cannon towers spread out everywhere. And the problem about this base is that you can easily deploy one decoy in the very center of the base, which makes the complete base absolutely vulnerable to decoys. And therefore, I think in the global age, the base is getting stronger. If you see, you get a fifth, or even atomic age, logically, you get a fifth cannon tower, which you can easily use to deploy it in the very center next to the oil refinery to mostly make the base unvulnerable to all of the decoy uses. But currently, if you deploy one decoy over here, the cannon towers can probably shoot one of the outer decoys, but the inner decoys will get the attention of your mortars for a very long time, and so allow the enemy attacker to move nearly freely in the complete base. So first, make sure that you have the cannon towers mostly as close as possible to the mortars. I think these locations are pretty perfect. Another pretty cool fact, I think, is that you have now enough space for your oil refineries. I don't know which other buildings are sensible to locate over there. I located my oil refineries over here because so you have even some kind of protection for them, because otherwise they are getting raided pretty much often. And you have, if these are not very many hit points, but you have some hit points in front of some important defense buildings, and so they are not getting destroyed that fast. Next point I want to talk with you about are all orange marked buildings, and some of you may already have recognized what I want to say with this to you. It's all about the air defense, and when I'm talking about air defense, it's not only our anti-air guns, it's also our towers, because especially if you have done some university research, these towers are getting from the industrial age above amazingly strong against enemy planes, tactical helicopters, and so on, and therefore I'm highlighting them as well as the castle as considerable air defenses. What we can see over here is a pretty decent spread out of the building. So first we have the very symmetrical spread out or locations of all of our air defenses inside the base, which is absolutely basical about this base, and you cannot underestimate it. I definitely think the locations are chosen very well. But additional to this, I also have spread out the towers mostly equal around the base. And over here we see a very nice spread out. Then we have the next tower over here, and here we have quite a bunch up. We have 2 towers as well as the very strong fort together, but over here we have only a little of air defenses, and over here we have nearly no. And the problem about this base currently over here, I would mention, is that especially where the Acropolis is placed, so also where we have very many defenders running around, we have nearly no air defense, or if we are comparing to the rest of the base, only a low air defense. That's one of the highest weaknesses, or the biggest weaknesses of this current layout we can see over here. And I can only recommend to you making it equal all over the base, or putting in some emphasis on your missile silo, as well as, or if you have an Acropolis, at your Acropolis, and so also at your defender buildings. If you have no Acropolis, mostly players tend to don't bunch up their spawning buildings, so bunkers and depots. Garrisons are mostly not mattering, but the depots and the bunkers are mostly getting spread out. If you have an Acropolis, most players are aware of the strong effect of the Acropolis and therefore bunching these buildings up next to the Acropolis, which also makes them pretty vulnerable. And therefore, if you have an Acropolis, make sure to get proper air defense close to the Acropolis. Otherwise, definitely care about the missile silo. Also, I don't like the missile silo over here, because what you can see now, let's come later to the missile silo. Next point to talk about are the sniper towers. Sniper towers are definitely important, but in this base they are very, at the first look, at the first glance, you might think they are very properly placed, because in the very center of the base they can shoot as long as possible. The problem over here is you can get to this center easier than you have already thought about, because if you have crashed one wall getting to the inner side, you may be able to kill all of the sniper towers as well as most of the mortars within 30 seconds, and that's pretty vulnerable. When I was in Industrial Age, I decided to change this. First, I took one of my cannon towers, so I watched my defense logs and then I analyzed from which directions the enemy is attacking mostly. Very many attackers who obviously aimed for medals attacked from the town center. Strong attackers, which aim it was to kill my complete base, obviously, and experienced attackers obviously attacked from the Acropolis side, because they figured out, hey, okay, he has Acropolis and Versailles, so attacking from the town center, my Versailles was placed next to the town center, attacking from the town center will slow me down, get me the quick victory, but then I have to face the strong spawning defenders for a very long time. And therefore experienced attackers always or nearly always attacked from the Acropolis side. Some even attacked from the fort, but this was only a minority, and only a very few ones seemed to attack from the bottom side. So I could clearly visualize or see that the left flank was pretty vulnerable or attractive for attackers, as well as my town center. Therefore, I made sure to keep my cannon towers over here active, and I decided to took one of my cannon towers from the top position and changed it with one of my sniper towers. Yeah, obviously the sniper tower is then getting exposed to the very outside, but again, most attackers did not decide to attack from this side. So in future, it might not change that more. So you have one sniper tower at the very outer side, and when most attackers are not attacking from this side, you will have one sniper tower who's shooting for, or which is shooting for a really, really long period of time, because when they are attacking from right over here, where most attackers attacked so far, the sniper tower will be intact and attacking for a very long time and not getting crushed with all of the other sniper towers because of the bunch up. The second pretty nice effect is if you don't... What did I want to say? If you don't have your cannon tower over here, you can locate it in the center and so even get a proper protection against decoys. Because if you have one cannon tower over here, nearly the complete center of the base is very immune against decoy tactics. And so you are making it very much more harder for the enemy to attack the base. So redoubts are a pretty minor aspect about this base. I have located them also to the very outer side, mostly to the entrances of the base, because I saw a couple of misrallies of an enemy rallying into the center of the base, and because of the obvious entrances of the base, the troops will not bite through the walls. Very often they will run through these entrances and then accidentally passing the redoubts, which is dealing a huge amount or a considerably huge amount of damage to all of their troops. And therefore I think if you are locating your redoubts inside the layout, there is the best opportunity to place them outside at the entrances of the arms. If you are locating them more at the inner side, I think you are wasting valuable location or valuable space. Currently, I would even consider taking them complete outside, because redoubts are, in other ways than this accidental rallying, they are mostly very unsenseful and getting destroyed very early on. So they have no huger sense, in my opinion. About the protection of the layout, we have obviously 4 arms, so also 4 entrances of this layout, and therefore you can quite think about how to protect it. In my opinion, let's talk about the industrial stage, so we have no depot. In my opinion, I thought about, okay, one side I have the town center, I think many attackers will come from over here. Therefore, I located the Versailles behind the town center to slow down these attackers if they are after the town center aiming for the complete base. Then from 6 o'clock I had no severe defense buildings, but I located my Acropolis pretty much like over here, but not completely. I located it in the center of this straight wall and put all of my, or most of my defense buildings, which are spawning defenders, nearly equal to this base. But I had one of the sniper towers. I was obviously only in industrial or global age, and therefore I had one, respectively 2 sniper towers, not 3. I had one of these tank depots to the very inner side, keeping my bunkers mostly at the inner side and close to the cannon towers in case of betrayal, and the Acropolis to the center. Then over here I had also no protection, and at the very top I had to the entrance, next to the entrance, my generals located. And I think this worked pretty sophisticated. So now, in case of global age, because in my opinion this layout is very valuable for industrial players as well as global players. First, when you are coming to the atomic age and dealing or concerning the road network bonus in case of radar research, you might have to completely change the layout. So for industrial as well as global players, I think this layout can pay off a lot, and therefore you don't have to change that much. If we are now talking about global age players, obviously, very obviously, the missile silo is getting a very huge issue. And now what I did about my current base, I thought about, I have 2 very strong points of my base. First, I have the Acropolis, which is unbelievably boosting my defenders, and then I have the missile silo. I saw very many players building the complete layout around their missile silo. So this is only one example. It's definitely, I will not call it a weak base. In total, definitely not. But what is the probably most or the biggest weakness of this base is the missile silo in the center. First, sabotaging is getting really attractive over here because you can sabotage a mortar together with the silo. But nevertheless, what is the more important fact, you have a very huge space in the center to use your decoys and don't have to fear any traps or any cannon towers. So pretty much most over the complete attack, if you are aware of the fact, you can use your decoy over here and get nearly all of the mortars perfectly distracted during the attack. So I think this is the most basic and the most rude or cruel weakness of this kind of layout, and therefore I decided not to take the silo to the very center of the base or somewhere in this very close arm locations. I located my silo pretty close to the Versailles, so to the town center side, which is the probably most exposed side to the Acropolis. My thoughts behind this were, there are many attackers attacking from the town center, and I want them to attack from over here, because even if they are doing on purpose or accidentally, most often they are killing my town center and so giving me a peace treaty. So no matter whether they are crashing my whole base, or whether they are failing below 50%, I will definitely have a peace treaty afterwards. And that was my obvious plan, the first plan behind the location. So again, we are talking about Acropolis at one side and the silo next to the town center, nearly at the complete opposite side of the base. So if players are attacking now for the complete base and seeing, okay, there's a missile silo, I definitely want to kill the missile silo, they have to attack close to the town center, probably accidentally killing the town center and making so sure that I will have a definite peace treaty afterwards and not getting robbed again. At the other side, if players are considering killing my complete base, they always have to decide, do I care first about the missile silo or do I care about the Acropolis defenders? If you are caring about the Acropolis defenders, you will attack from over here and make sure that you make short process with all of the very strong defenders, which is definitely also a considerably good choice. But then you have a very, very long way to get to the missile silo, and this makes the missile silo shoot a couple of times and therefore hopefully killing most of the army of the enemy attacker. locating the town center without any traps, without any resistance defenders, whatever, to the very outer side of the layout is pretty sensible in my opinion, because don't locate any traps. These traps will cost yourself only gold, they will embarrass the attacker, and it's just only a matter of time. So you will lose gold to rearm them, or you will lose some kind of trap blessing, and in total you have quite no result from this. The enemy attacker who is aiming for your town center will even being embarrassed or annoyed and do everything to get your town center. He will lose some more troops, and in total you have lost and the enemy attacker has lost. And your only target by locating your town center outside is getting peace treaties. So makes the town center very vulnerable. Let it get to even every attacker, even if it is only a medieval attacker. Hopefully he's happy about that, some kind of medals. But if you have your missile silo, make sure to protect it. I have located the missile silo, as mentioned, very to the right side, so pretty much to the opposing side of my Acropolis. Then we have town center, the Versailles to slow down enemy troops. I have some towers for severe air defense, also some kind of traps located, but that's not that much important. But you can also see some pretty severe defense buildings, such as the factory, so they are spawning resistance troops, also the mercenary camp, barracks, then we have also the stronghold. So most buildings to protect the missile silo in case of attacking from this side. So no matter from which side the enemy is attacking, from the missile silo side or from the Acropolis side, there will definitely be the opposing side of the layout, which is strongly trying to avoid getting the enemy 100% or in total most of the base. So if you have yourself an Acropolis build, I can definitely recommend in all cases to you, no matter with a Worldwar base layout or commercial or even multiplayer base layout, make sure that you have your bunkers located close to cannon towers. I know betrayal is not that more or that often used again, but in multiplayer I don't know why I see a lot of players still using betrayal. I have no clue why. So these are not my bunkers, this is not my layout in total, but I have located my bunkers very close to the inner side cannon towers, so if someone overtakes my heavy tanks, the cannon towers easily can shot them due to the wall which is close or between them. Versailles, in my opinion, should be located next to the town center. I already mentioned it, because many attackers are attacking from this side. And in total, yes, right around you can see a lot of other buildings, and this stuff is quite not sensible or not that important at all. You can connect your road as good as possible to get some additional hit points, some additional gold. It's absolutely no matter, really, in total no matter. Also how you have arranged your houses. Do you have a very spread out build, so making most of the space useful for your troops and makes the enemy attack from a very far distance, or to really bunch them up next to the walls? No matter at all, in my opinion. What is really mattering are the locations of traps. So I decided, because I have, I think, 7 caltrops or 7 barbed wire in the global age, I decided to choose wisely. First, we have 4 entrances of the base, and therefore to locate 7 barbed wires is not that easily, because 7 is not really good comparable or usable at 4. And I decided to again look where the enemies are attacking mostly. First I saw, okay, I have the Versailles at the right side and it is already slowing down my troops. Therefore I decided to not take a barbed wire over here. So I took 1 barbed wire over here. This blue line over here should visualize my base layout. Over here the base layout is quite constructed a little bit slightly otherwise. So 1 barbed wire obviously over here the next one, and the next one over here. So I have 4 remaining, and these 4 remaining barbed wires are pretty essential in my opinion. I figured out that if enemy attackers are coming to the inner side of the base, mostly they make short process with all of your buildings if they have a good use of decoy or of other tactics. And I really want to slow this down, because most of the troops are running around this corners, around this corner, and finally around this corner to get to the center of the base. So pretty obvious, we have 1 free space over here, which is perfectly to locate another barbed wire. So the